we've called the show Common Ground, and
Okay.
just trying to find some common ground out there. It seems like we're in such a divided world
Yeah.
that looking for what's some common ground. I know we both love our city. We both love Long Beach a lot.
For sure.
And now I love that you can sing, and I had no idea.
So it was, I don't know, before we started, or maybe we did start, I don't know. But yeah, I was in like musical theater and like classical music, and I was really lucky. I was at Emerson Junior High, and like the principal at Hamilton Music Academy would like go to all the junior highs to like recruit talent to come to the magnet school. So it was like I call it like it was like the fame.
Everyone's always recruiting you for your talent, similar to what I'm doing today.
Among others. I was just one of many, but yeah.
So how did you get involved in politics? What was your first start, or when did you start caring about it?
Let's see. It just kind of fell into it, right? So what really was, I was a business major in college.
At Long Beach State.
And I had to, as a prerequisite, I had to take like a bunch of like classes, and one of them was like Poli-Sci 101. And there was a professor, Charles Noble. He's since retired, but like totally changed, like turned my world upside down. Like he was one of those professors that, I walked from class to his like office hours, and like, he would challenge me on my assumptions, and then he would then tell me how I could have made better arguments in my belief, which was like wild. And then he would be like, but here's what I think. And then it always like, and so he changed my mind on things, right? So like death penalty and different things like that. We would have these like really great sidebar conversations that just made it change. So that was like a change in trajectory for me, and then I wanted to get involved in politics.
Most people, like, what do they say at the dinner table? Don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion and these things. But politics is powerful, right? And it's something that it seems like in our country right now is so divided.
Yeah.
Why would you encourage someone to care? First, I mean, I always call you the mad scientist too. Meaning, anytime I have a question,
I don't know if that's a good thing or
not.
No,
it's a
you
good
see
thing.
those guys, the chemists. They
no.
have their hair on
But
fire.
you are. Meaning,
Right.
you really know. I think you know so much about it. But it seems like so many people, as soon as they hear politics, they're out of there. They don't.
Yeah, it's peculiar. For me, it's peculiar why people like religion or politics. I think it's. Well, you asked the question, which is why is it important? I think if anything, COVID's taught us is how much government can do and not do, and the powers of government over people and helping people. And there's different ideological thoughts of what government should do for people, and then that's where some of the struggles are. Right?
In your life, when you look at what's happened through COVID, have you ever seen the government flex more in regards to regulation?
In my life, no, but historically, yes, right? Historically, it has. And I think it is in different ways, right? So I think it's manifesting itself differently than what we're used to, but I think government is always there in the background, right? So like you'll go to other countries, like I went to Mexico and like everybody ate outside and everybody had hot dog stands and this, and I'm like, why are they able to like have a beer and eat tacos? And there's not like the regulator running by and saying, this is against health violations. And then we're now at more of an outsiding force because of COVID, and nobody wants to go back inside, right? Like I think, people are like, hey, this, increased square footage, the experience is better. But it took sort of a negative thing to see a positive thing kind of come from that. But it's everywhere in our lives. So government, politics, it manifests whether you see it or you don't. And when it impacts you most is when people kind of wake up, but it impacts others all the time. Right.
Yeah. So maybe the pandemic, because the government impacted so many people, it woke up so many people to politics.
I think people got frustrated with politics, right? And they still are, right? So we have
like this recent picture that came out with Newsom at the game and everybody losing their mind over it.
I get it, but and I understand the reasons why, and I loved your response to it, right? You put yourself in the middle, but like and this is very unpopular, but like politicians are actually people, right? And they have to go out and they want to do things, and I think where people kind of see something like that and say, But what you're making everybody else do, you're not holding that same standard to yourself, right? So this is happening in the House of Parliament, with the Prime Minister in England, is that their actions, their decree, their dictum is different than like their own actual like everyday what they do and how they do it, right?
Yeah.
So they see hypocrisy and they get upset, right? They're like, this is hypocrisy, but they're people too. They have families, they have lives, they make mistakes, and
so you would say that we should be more forgiving to that. We should be more understanding.
I think it's so where people who wake up and like understand politics and they then there's an inflection point of wanting to do something about it, and they don't know how to do it, and then they don't understand what it actually is, right? Yeah. So how do systems and processes work right now, and then how do I affect change in those systems and processes?
I agree.
Right?
I agree with you that so many people like might be at a tipping point, but they don't know where to start. They go, what do I even do with this?
Yeah.
And is that your experience?
100%.
So if you thought of national news versus local news, and you thought of something more local, do you think the average person knows how to navigate their local government?
The average person in America doesn't even vote.
They don't even care.
It's not that they don't care, it's they don't think that their vote counts. That's a lot of it, right? I mean, many times people, like I know, like
in Long Beach, 15%, right? 15% voter turnout.
Yeah, of registered voters.
Of registered voters.
Not of eligible voters, right? So you have like eligible voters, then voters that are registered, and then you have people who actually vote. And then you have like how often they vote, right? So do they wake up because they're inspired by a leader and they'll vote for Obama, when he first ran, and then never vote again, which happened, right? Or there's people who like came out because they wanted to vote against Trump and somebody else,
right?
But then they never vote again. So and there's lots of reasons why. Like people like have a whole career studying on why this happens, right?
Yeah.
But we're the only country that doesn't have like an election day where from the top of the ticket down, and it's like we have a lot of elections relative to other countries. And like in other countries, like a national holiday, everybody's off.
Everyone stops.
And it's compulsory, right? Like you must vote. Like and there's people who are for or against that, but like most people have a higher participation rate because they make it easy. In other words, they don't have to go work, but they have to go vote, right? And they are able to have a higher turnout with doing that. Now, there's lots of reasons why that's a good and bad, and philosophically good and bad. Yeah. But that's just how America. We have lots of elections, right? Yeah. And so a lot of people just kind of go, man, it doesn't really matter, or they want to do it, but they get busy. All these other things.
A lot
happen.
of excuses. Ultimately, a lot of excuses.
Well, and then they don't necessarily. So, like I used to say when I was much younger. You don't have a right to complain unless you vote, right? And I actually have amended that. I think you have to participate in some way, whether it's volunteering or giving financial contributions or doing it has to be more than just your vote. So that used to be sort of my paradigm, and I've evolved and like, well, actually it's a little bit more than just
it's more than just casting vote. You got to get involved. So if you're at an inflection point, which I think so many people are, right? Yeah. You're watching homelessness, you're watching crime, you're watching all of this craziness. Yep. What feels crazy? I think people honestly feel crazy a little bit because they're going, how is this it's getting worse. They have this opinion, they have this feeling, they don't know where to start. They go, yeah, I can vote. Yeah, I can get involved. But where would you say, if you have a problem, where is the first place you would go?
We just recently talked to somebody about this. So they were talking about at a certain function, they didn't have like the meetings held online, right? Yeah. And they were frustrated with that. But, the first thing is to understand that if you're upset about something and you want change is to identify solutions, or that you think that might be solutions, right? Many times people who are in power, they see it very sort of one-sided or one way, or they're not even looking at it. Like they're not even aware of it. So whether it's like standing water on my street, which believe it or not, is a big problem because it gets mosquitoes and it's like messes up your car.
And this sounds so silly. This is where people just go.
But I'm telling you.
But it's real. What you're saying is inside of a city, there are so many big problems, little problems.
Those are the problems that matter. But the point is very few people will call anybody about it, right? They won't call their council office. They won't follow up with it. They don't, so they don't engage in government in a way that government works for them.
Okay,
right?
so let's go to that. You said they call their council office.
Yes.
Okay, in Long Beach, there's how many council districts?
There's 9 council districts.
So
yep.
I've got water on my street. Where do I even get this? I go to the website. I go to the longbeach.gov,
Yep.
and I find my council member,
Yep.
and I say there's standing water
Yeah.
in my in my street.
Yeah. 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 This is how. So you say there's standing water. I know. So this is what they'll do. So they
And
put
by
it
the way,
in.
this council member
Yeah.
is not a full-time
No, it's a
employee of the
part-time
city.
position,
It's a
but they have
part-time
staff,
they have
very
staff.
capable
Yeah,
staff
okay,
people.
okay.
So they'll put it into, it could be, by the way, nowadays you don't even call, you can do Go Long Beach, right?
Okay.
So that's a good thing.
Go Long Beach is an app.
It's an app, so start Go Long Beaching things, get everything in the system. It used to be like my fun thing. If there's a Go Long Beach award, I probably got it when I worked in City Hall.
Got it. All right.
But you have to start with the channels of communication to the city. Talk about it. Now, what they'll do is they'll send somebody out and be like, okay, is there like a loose pipe somewhere? Is there a
Identify the problem.
Identify the problem. It could be a pitch and grade problem, which means that there's an actual infrastructure problem, right? Which in that case, to be honest with you, you just got to buy yourself a really good broom and just sweep it on down. But
it's not getting fixed.
Right. But my point is, well, that's the other thing. So what happens too is a problem can be identified and resolved with, hey, we can't do anything about it. And then you could decide, nothing can be done about it. Or you could say, well, that's not good enough. This is bad because there's like alleyways that are still dirt in Long Beach. There's all kinds of infrastructure needs, and how those get prioritized is what's called a CIP, right? See, I
don't think this is what people know.
Yeah,
they have no idea.
Yeah,
they have no idea. So what's CIP?
Capital improvement projects.
Okay.
So there's a list, right? And sometimes it's like evidentiary, fact-based thing, and then sometimes it's complaint-driven. I'm just being candid, right? And so they do.
You mean the greasy wheel?
100%. I'm here to tell you, the squeaky wheel, in a polite and constructive way, gets the oil. I mean, it's just it's life. This is, by the way, you can apply this to your health. You can apply this to lots of things, right? So the squeaky wheel. So the CIP is a list of infrastructure needs that are a mile long. But I always tell people, if you're not on the list, it'll never get done. If you're on the list, it might take 5 years, might take 10 years, might be 15 years, but it's on the list to get done. And they naturally occur, they go up.
Where is homelessness on the list, do you think, currently?
Well, so so this is part of why I'm excited to be here, because we can talk through this stuff with you. So let's back up. So let me just finish the thought, go full circle on this. So contact your council member, find out what the issues are. What I always tell people is educate yourself first. Present a solution that is include to some sort of revenue source, and then apply pressure. And pressure is done through consistency, follow-up, follow-through, getting involved, making a priority, making an issue.
So if I lived in Long Beach, I should have an app. I should have the
Go Long Beach app,
Long Beach
100%.
app immediately.
Get to know your council member.
I should know my council member.
Yep. And when you can, donate, volunteer, get involved in the local political structure for people that you support your ideas and what you want to do.
And don't you think a lot of people
don't vote? That's the other thing.
And don't you think a lot of people, they think it's going to come down to like if I have a pothole or whatever, who cares if somebody's Democrat, Republican,
that's
whatever?
what I'm trying to say. Most people, if they can fix it and they can do something with it, they will.
Yeah.
But fully funded, I mean, like they have the money. It takes 2.5 years to do a traffic light.
2.5 years.
Yeah.
But
it's not like just for Long Beach, like anywhere.
Yeah, and
you have to do engineering studies, you have to do traffic studies, you have to do procurement, you have to do. I mean, it is a thing, and like most people understand that it like doesn't move quickly like your business, right? It's a different thing, and it's never going to be run like a business. It is a public agency.
Well,
right?
you can't say that it's never, because there are cities like I love what Suarez is doing in Miami right now. I think he's doing a fantastic job.
Okay.
I actually was on the phone this morning. So Citicoin, who came out with the crypto coin in Miami, launched it there in New York, and trying to bring it to Long Beach.
That'd be great. I think we talked about that. I think it's a great idea.
But I mean, 2.5 years.
But we don't even own our own trade lines in Long Beach.
So we got problems.
You're just like, we don't own our own, like running our own transactions. We use a vendor for our credit card payment system. We're a big enough city where we should own our own trade lines, right? This is something that was a pet peeve many years ago. Hopefully it changed.
How many
I would
years
love
in
to stand
politics?
corrected.
How many years in politics?
For who?
For you?
Like 13, 14 years around.
And you
like
actually
working in government.
And you worked for DeAndrews.
DeAndrews, yeah.
For how many years?
That was the entire time.
As a chief. So
I came in from like the private sector. I did like, I was trying to find him a chief of staff, and like I had a nice, initial thing, and he's like, look, I need you to come work with me, and it was supposed to be temporary, but it ended up being
and what district was that?
It was the 6th district.
And in the 6th district, you're going through this, and what's like one of the biggest issues the 6th district was
then and now it's I mean, they have a lot of issues, right? So I think he was able to put more park space in. He was able to put improve the infrastructure in Wrigley. There was a lot of accomplishments, but it's a highly, in my opinion, right? This is not now his opinion or whatever, but when I look at that district, you have a very high transient population. So it's high renters, right? So you have 80% renter occupancy, very low home 80%? Ownership. Around. I mean, I don't want to throw numbers out.
Of course, I know.
I don't want to, so I don't want to be, but a very high renter population and a very high transient population, because as people better themselves, they want to move to a better neighborhood, right? Because that's what people do. They move in somewhere because it's like economically suitable for them, and then they're able to go out. So there's very, in my opinion, there were very few things that anchored people in the community, right? So whether it's the Cambodian question or these other sort of socioeconomically groups, what would make you stay and have your children stay here and buy a home and live next door? And those are types of things where people are trying to get out, right? And because of some of the hardships that they face in that area, right? And so that's where, for me, it was like, well, home ownership is key, or a way for people, pathway to wealth creation, pathway to home ownership, because many people who grew up there want to move out. They don't move back and start businesses or raise their family, right?
It's like, let me get strong enough to move on.
Right. So in my opinion, in order to break that cycle, you have to create anchors for the community, right? You have to create the infrastructure and the pathway for wealth building, wealth creation.
So the government would come in, meaning you're not letting like just capitalism run its course. The government would come in as a city council member and try to set up a structure to help home ownership.
It's a lot of those things, right? So like, I'll give you this is an example, one example that was frustrating. So there was a time early on when I first started in government where the market were creating apartments, and then they were going to the county and they were creating maps, and they were doing condo conversions. So they convert these apartments into condos.
So somebody could buy a condo versus rent an apartment.
Well, somebody could rent a property and then like rent to own, or they could, go in, fix it up, and then now they're commercial. They're home ownership opportunities. Well, you can't have that, right? Because you're displacing people, and it's gentrification and all these other words. And so what they did was, they can't ban it. So what they did was they created impact fees. So we created a park impact fee, a public safety impact fee, a park fee. And so for every key, there were all these fees associated, and so the economics wasn't there anymore, right?
Yeah, it didn't
so
work.
I haven't checked again, but like I can pretty much assure you that whatever was happening before that stopped. And now we probably have no condo conversions. Like I've never heard anybody talking about it since then, right? Like where they're buying a property and converting them into condos. What a missed opportunity, though, because that could have, if you just let the market,
could have changed the entire community.
Or a percentage of the community, right? Yeah. I don't know what the number is, but when you have folks that have pathway to home ownership, they tend to care more about their neighborhood. Yeah. Not to say that people who don't live bitty lives, stuff like that, but when you drive out and it's like, this is my home, you're going to be more proactive in what's going on around you. And it doesn't mean that everybody has to be a homeowner, but there has to be a certain percentage that's greater than what's there now.
So now the hot topic of homelessness, right?
Yeah.
Like, so if you took, like, somebody's listening, they get that general political web, if you will, from you.
Yeah.
Now let's take like the most complicated issue in our time.
It's so complicated.
It's so complicated. Yeah. So where do you even start? I'm a home, somebody says, I don't
know. We'll talk it through.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll talk it through.
Yeah, talk it through.
You're frustrated. I think a lot of people are frustrated. I think Long Beach, relative to other communities, is doing better in terms of like actual what I can see. But we have a little bit more better way of hiding it in some respects, because so like before it became like a bigger problem, I actually did a ride along with somebody that worked there. And that's where I found out like people live in caves, and it's not just underpasses. It's like the most obscure areas, right?
Digging mass. Yeah.
Yeah. And I wasn't even a whole day with this caseworker, and it stressed me out. Like, I don't know how the person does their job. I don't know how they get up every day. They go out in the field and they talk with folks that are literally at the bottom.
At the bottom.
Right. And many, have mental health issues, substance abuse issues.
Yeah.
And more importantly, don't want the help. Right. Yeah. They're like, a lot of folks have just kind of checked out.
Leave me alone.
And
did you actually get out of the car?
Yeah, but I didn't go to places. I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. It was uncomfortable because I'm self-subscribed to this. I think many people might find their way, but like, I lost peripheral vision many times. Like, I'll drive, and probably there'll be lots of folks that are out on the streets that I've programmed my brain. I don't even see anymore. Right?
You don't want to see it.
You don't want to, but it's misery, right? It's sadness.
Yeah.
It's everything. It's all the things that kind of go into that. But because of that, it's sort of out of sight, out of mind. When I went and did the drive along, which by the way was not sanctioned, right? Yeah. So this employee doesn't work for the city anymore. But like, I'm one of those people, like, I got to go out and see it myself, right? Yeah. So I was like, show me the hotbed, show me where we're at. This was years ago, by the way. And we went to these areas where, I mean, there's just a myriad of problems, a myriad of issues. Like, he was telling me that, like, even when we get people home, they'll pitch a tent next to it.
Yeah.
Like, they'll give them up, like, somewhere to live.
You give the person a home, and they don't know what to do with it.
Later that night, they're like sleeping outside.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not like, and what's happening right now is we're spending $700,000 a person to build new housing, thinking that the homeless problem is a housing problem. Now, certainly, it's called downward pressures, right? So if you remember in 2008, people were evicted or lost their homes and had more, but they were more affluent, so they moved into apartments. And then the people who were moving to apartments had to move to other areas. And so you had this sort of downward pressure, and then just overall population growth does that, right? So we do need more housing, and it's housing, but it's housing for everyone, right? And this is where I think that we're missing an opportunity. So there used to be money for like senior projects. We don't do that anymore at the county, at the state. It's like this key project. It's strictly homeless, and it's protected classes. So it's like, homeless with mental illness, homeless with disabilities, homeless, which is great. And they need to be housed. But it's like, now we're not doing anything for seniors because people are not getting old anymore. Yeah. Right. There's not poor seniors.
Well,
that
actually,
need adequate
seniors
housing.
are increasing.
That's my point. We're all the boom. So we, are we doing things for other classes or folks of people?
But the answer is yes. Maybe again, just to go back to that water, that standing water in your street. Yeah. And that one resident that just keeps calling. Yeah. Keeps calling. Right. Maybe there's been so much pressure on homelessness that it's getting so much more attention right now because it's so visual. But you drive down the street.
But here's the thing: there's supportive care that needs to go along with that, and that's where we're missing, in my opinion. In
services.
Correct.
Because if you built houses in Long Beach, there's roughly 3,000 or 2,500 to 3,000 homeless. I think something like that, 2,600 in the count. If you went out and 2,600 homes, does it solve our problem?
No, it doesn't. That's my point. So it's about continuum of care. It's meeting people where they are, right? Because not everybody is in the same spot, right?
In the same part of the journey, but you've got to generalize enough to take care of it.
And have programs that are more adaptable. Like there's really hard to find shelters that keep kids together, right? So like there's really, so if you're a teenage boy, right, and you're with your mom, you can't go to like an all-women shelter, right?
Yeah, so now you're separated.
You're separated, and now this teenage boy is with a bunch of men. Right? I mean, these are, and so the mother's like, well, I'm not doing this to my son.
Yeah.
So they opt
she's
out.
Not going there.
Right.
Yeah.
Or there's little things, like there's some programs that make you pray before you eat. And there's like, I don't want to pray. Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, these are the kinds of things. Yeah. And so where I think we could start is, so we do this homeless count, which is great. But and by the way, the men and women that are in our multi-service center, bar none, above, 10 steps towards heaven before me, okay? Yeah. I mean, they are just doing God's work. They are, strained to the max, and there's no outcomes that I'm seeing being measured in a way that I would want to look at the problem, right? So if you're referring people to resources, what happened to that person once you referred them, right? So if you've got 20 programs that you're funding, right, and 20 programs do 20 different things, what's the outcome of that referral, right?
How do you track it?
We don't.
Yeah, we don't track that. Yeah, we don't track it.
Not like how it should be, where it's a spectrum of continuum of care.
Yeah.
We meet people where they are, and then we're able to track person through. If I go right now and I need a job, and I go to the local WIB, they have me enroll, and they're like, okay, welcome, and then here's a resume workshop.
Yeah.
Here's a card, Ryan, with your number on it. And then I track every time you go and utilize my resources. So you go to this thing, you go to this thing, you saw a job counselor, you do that. I know A to Z kind of what you did.
Yeah.
And then when you come to me and you're like, I still can't find a job, I could be like, well, you did these 3, but did you try these ones? Did you go over here? Did you make that happen?
Yeah.
And then what I can do is, people just kind of really are successful. Why is that? And then you find out that star, teacher, or that
that real
counselor.
Influential, similar to your teacher back in college, this person that's changing lives.
So how do we replicate? What are the best practices that this person, this counselor is able to do?
Yeah.
How do we put that on the system? That is not occurring there.
Yeah.
One of the things that, this happened a while ago, it was a 10-year plan to end homelessness, all right, in Long Beach.
In Long Beach, or
in Long
LA County, or just
No,
Long
this
Beach?
is Long Beach. It's in the health department, okay?
Yeah.
Really good people were on this committee. Like titans of our community, okay?
Yeah.
Came before the council, presented all of it. I don't know, and I stand corrected. I'd love for someone to tell me. I don't think one thing got implemented. It was like received and filed, right?
Yeah.
Because they're handling all the issues that they're doing. But was there something in there based on all this community input, all this thing that could have been done that would have net positive results?
Well, I think,
and I don't even know why. Was it a funding issue? Was it a leadership problem? Was it what was the reason for this document that I read back when, where it didn't manifest itself into like?
I think I think that happens in politics a lot of times because you're allowing perfection to get in the way of progress, right? It's like maybe it's not the right time or the right deal. Meaning, when we talk about solving homelessness, why say we've got to solve the whole thing? What if we just said we want to solve some of it? What if we wanted to just take on a portion of it? I think the promise is so big, like that so many people just go, I can't take it on. I'm not even going to start anywhere. And the other thing is, I think the transparency to say, hey, we've tried these things. These didn't work. This did work.
Yeah. So for me, it would be a little bit more accountability and transparency, a little bit more of data, because like the homeless count's one thing and that's great. But like, how do we know who are the champions that we should put more money into, and where do we need to make some adjustments, right? It's not that we don't do what we're doing. It's if I have $1, right, and I want to multiply the effectiveness of how many people I can reach with that $1, I want to find out what is the best place to place that so that it can do more, right?
And the hardest thing is the government the place to do it? Meaning we would joke, we talk about the DNV versus going to like a AAA, how more efficient it is.
Yeah.
And you take that 2.5 years.
This is the age-old thing,
That's
Ryan,
the problem.
Right? Yeah, this is the age-old question. I think there are some things that government has to do that the private sector cannot do, in my opinion, right? I think, and you don't want them to do necessarily, right? Because like there's plenty of examples like prison systems, making that a profit center system has never been. There's countless things of why that was a really bad idea, right? And where priorities are and what it did. But from a outsider looking in, I'm just saying what I think. It may be something completely different, Ryan, than what I'm saying. I'm just saying I don't know what the answers are.
Yeah, but
I don't have access to data to tell me which way is up or down.
Yeah, but what I think you are good at is, again, I keep going back to this water standing in the street, is the average person doesn't know where to go. They're outraged, they're disappointed, they're frustrated, they're sad, they're empathetic.
Yeah.
It's not like people are just driving by saying, get up, go to work, you're lazy. No, it's like, I want to help you. I want to do something, but they just don't know what to do. They don't know, okay, I call my city council member. The city council member doesn't even know what to do. They have no idea what to do. And so you just keep complaining, people, and that while the problem continues to get bigger and bigger. And I would love to see this 10-year plan.
I'll send it to you.
How do we get it?
It's online. I think. Unless they took it off, right? But I'm
gonna as a part of this.
Online.
I'm gonna do it. But I think what would be great and why I really wanted to talk to you is I've never talked to someone that could help me understand more how to navigate a local government.
Right.
Most people don't know how to do it, and you, and your experience and your passion, you really could help a lot of people take that complaint that they have and really move it to an action and a change.
I hope so. I mean, look, I think some things are helpful and other things are not, right? So I'm cautious to say, if people are frustrated, there's all this pent up thing is I think it's like for you particularly, because you have a voice, you've been highlighting these problems. It's, I think what I'm hearing from you say is, I want to be able to direct this sort of anger, desire to help, in a meaningful process, in a meaningful way to make things work. Sadness, all those in between. Yeah. But like, it's still, so it's, I think we can do something. The question is, I think it's also, to your point, like, we got to do something, but I also think it's, we're not gonna be able to solve homelessness. Right. I think that's another thing that we have to kind of come to terms with. Right. And so it's how do we manage it?
What would you say?
Well, look,
if you can't solve
right now, so the rules are, you can't, in my belief, overnight camping, things like there are rules and regulations to create quality of life issues.
And you would call that reform.
That's reform. So, but the court said you can't disrupt this person if you don't have a bed for them, right? So you have to have beds available before you can make this. So it's like the stick and the carrot, right? Yeah. So if you don't have the carrot, you can't use the stick, right? And the other thing is you don't want to create like a migration problem where like literally, and trust me, Giuliani's not, viewed as a hero anyway. I mean, he was America's like mayor. And
he was,
now not so much, right?
But at the time, SNL,
at the time, he really cleaned up New York, right? Yeah. I mean, he went from where there was, strip joints and all this other stuff, and to now being a vibrant, downtown that people want to go to and experience, and is a huge tourist destination. But it took time, right? And so he got criticized because like he was flying people to France. So like, I don't know if you remember this. It's like because he had this program.
These things are so crazy. Right?
But if you read what he was trying to do at the time, and what he did do at the time was he was reuniting people with their family who were separated because of they had a substance abuse problem. They went on the streets. They migrated different parts. They lost track of where their family was. But somebody's like, "Where did you live? Where do you come from?" Yeah. Right? Because the best resources, believe it or not, for people is their family. Right? Their family loves them. They're going to care for them. Yeah. They're going to take them. Just like adoption is big, right? In terms of the changing a trajectory's outcome in life. Even greater than socioeconomic is having loving parents, right? Yeah. So what he was trying to do is reconnect, and it happened to be that person's most relative that was willing to take back was in France, right? Yeah. But the headline was, Giuliani sends him to Paris,
the politics and the media take over.
Right.
Well, again, I know that you got an election coming up in a couple months, and people in Long Beach are looking at different people to replace council members and mayor and all these different things. I think right now, honestly, conversations like this that don't have a political angle, they have a solution, trying to find a solution, trying to find a way to do this. So much of it would be so much easier if people like you were listened to in just how to navigate. You got to know how to navigate it.
I think the thing that if anybody were to take anything away is that things are very complicated, and the solutions to those problems are based on priorities. So when you talk about politics, people don't like politics. It was like I saw this thing with Howard Dean, and he was like, look, in the olden days, we used to kill each other, right? Like limited resources. I had a clan, and I'd go fight that clan, and we would, so because they were talking like how terrible politics is. And he's like, yeah, it is, but we've evolved, right?
Yeah.
We don't, with sticks and spears.
We don't kill the person. We just ruin their entire life,
their reputation, and make it so that nobody would ever want to run for office. Absolutely, I get it. But that's true, and that was his point. Is like, hey, this negativity is out there, right? And
it's so nasty.
But it's really weird, Ryan. Like you'll ask, like, do you think Congress is effective? No. Well, what do you think about Alan Lowenthal? Oh, I love Alan. He's a good guy, right? Yeah. And it's like, but that's your congressman. But that's part of Congress. Yeah. Right? And we have these weird disconnects. Like, I don't like, there's any standard poll, it would say, is Long Beach on the right track or the wrong track? And if you're on the wrong track, you're in trouble. If it's the right track, there's not much to do here because people are generally happy. But then as you get through the polls, like positive IEDs, messaging, all these other things. They've created a science to
that's
whole
what's
thing.
crazy to me. You have all these high approval ratings, and you have a city that in a lot of cases could be considered a mess.
But that's my point. Is you really like your council member.
You may
not like what's going on in your city.
You have a high Yelp rating, but your food tastes like shit. Yeah,
right.
I mean it's like it's unbelievable.
So that's where I go back to accountability and transparency, right? So do you remember like everyone's like, oh, we're going to publish our schedule. We're going to do all these other stuff.
Yeah.
To me, that's not what is important. What's important is budget, priorities. What people need to understand when you're looking at your next council member and their next mayor is what are their priorities and how does that translate into what benefits my neighborhood, what benefits me, what benefits our community that we love, right? So much. And people have different ideas, and it's hopefully you'll have like the people whoever's running for mayor, you'll interview them, you'll talk to them.
Yeah.
We don't really have a debate in Long Beach like we do in other cities where people can really noodle through like complex ideas like how would you do it? What would you do?
Well, and then
how
I think
would that
also
happen?
to look at track record. You ran on something, you promised something, did you do it?
Track record's good. And I think what we're all looking for though, Ryan, at least for I am, is like humility, right? And saying like this is a problem. Here are things that I think that might work that, should I be elected, I'll be able to do. And here's things that we tried that aren't working. Yeah. And then we all need to be a little more forgiving too, right? Like, so that's the other thing.
You're gonna wrap this back to Newsom not wearing a mask.
I'm not. No. Look, I mean, so you're worried. Don't be mad at me, right?
No, I wouldn't.
You're worried about that, or people are worried about. You know what they need to be worried about is that we're about to pass universal health care in the state of California that's going to increase taxes by 5 times. So, like, I get it. That's the picture. That's what everybody's like talking about. But right now, it's like a train. And the reason why it's going so fast through the state legislators is because it's not tied to any budgetary. Why? Because they have to raise taxes. So, like, to me, it's like that's nothing compared to what's happening right now.
This is why I respect you so much,
okay.
Because you know all this stuff.
Oh, okay.
But people aren't listening to you.
Oh, well,
they're listening.
I'm not trying to.
They're
get people
listening to funny memes. Well, I mean, listen.
No, but you know what I mean. Like to me, like when you say that, it's like, yeah, you're right. Okay, he's a guy that went out. He wanted to enjoy a game. But you know what I'm more worried about is 30 days before that, he announced something that's going to change everybody's life in the state of California.
And it's not even on your radar.
It's on some people's radars,
but not the
it's
majority.
on mine.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people are really concerned about it. I mean, what it's going to, as you as a business owner, what it's going to cost you. And then what it's going to cost most Americans. I mean, what I'm worried about, here's what I'm worried about. I'll just kind of give a quick little thing. Like, I am worried about homelessness. Yes, I think that's important. But our middle class in California is completely being eviscerated, right?
Totally.
We are creating this abject poverty that is just going to be rampant. And I don't mean to be hysteria. And I sound hysterical. I need to take a drink of water because I got to calm down. But like somebody told me, like I represent some apartment owners, right? Yeah. Someone's like, well, I don't see a line to the bankruptcy court, so they must be okay, even though people haven't paid rent for 2 years. But Blackstone's coming in and just buying up all these properties. So you have this, like, I'm looking like, what is it going to look like on 2023 when the eviction moratorium lifts? You're going to have like these large financial institutions just gobbling up all these things, and the mom and pa's are going to be gone, right?
Which you're seeing that already in businesses, small businesses.
You're seeing it everywhere.
But it's going to happen with people's homes and their lives.
It's happening right now. That's a concern.
Well, let's talk about that next time. You and I could talk literally all day long.
Unfortunately, we can.
I think I
can be a reoccurring guest.
Yeah, always.
Okay,
but good. I think the biggest thing, honestly, through this process is helping people navigate. And instead of looking at what a meme or whatever that makes everybody laugh, like real deal stuff.
Upset. I had people upset about that photo. And then I was like, what do you think about universal health care? What do you think about the proposed increased taxes?
Well, maybe that's what you do, though. Maybe a part of that is taking what somebody's outrage and then connecting it to the bigger issue.
If you can help me figure that one out, I'm right there with you.
Maybe that's what we did today. I
don't feel any closer to solving homelessness.
No,
but we talked about it. It was a good conversation, but like I don't have the answer, right?
Well, the biggest thing is we're going to pull this 10-year plan out.
Let's do that. Actually, you know what? Let's do that. I love that idea. Let's pull it out. Let's look it through and let's talk about it. If you and I could just sit right here and talk about it and be like, and then imagine what if that was implemented. I think it was like 9 years, 10 years
Yeah.
ago. Actually, it might have been. It was like right when I first started, right?
Yeah.
Working for a council member is when it was published.
Yeah.
So imagine if they had implemented like one of those things. So
Well,
I like that.
Okay,
let's do that.
it. That's our commitment.
That's our
and
follow
action
up
item.
from this meeting.
What is it called? The CPI list? What was the list where the puddle water goes on a
Well, no. So the infrastructure, right?
Yeah.
So it's capital improvement projects.
CIP
CIP.
list.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to get a copy of the list?
No, I'm
right.
today I'm gonna download this app, and I'm gonna
Do the app.
Yeah.
Yeah, and let your
I'm just gonna drive around updating.
No, you should.
Yeah.
No, it's addicting.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I loved it. No, I did, and like we found new stuff, and like
All right.
no, it's like you get the graffiti, and then like the next day it's gone. It's I'm telling you, it really can make if
Well,
everybody
we'll put a
if
link
everybody
to
in
that
Long
as
Beach
well.
got it. Actually, if I bet you if there was like a 5% increase in that use,
I'll get the credit.
I'd love that idea.
Yeah, I'll get the credit.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks
Anyway,
for being on.
Thank you very
Enjoyed
much.
it.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.